Shalom. This is your brother Ibad Banyan Zakar in the 559 area with the Fresno True Nation congregation. And Lord willing, this lesson will be edifying. We're going to go into some Babylonian captivity, get some timelines, get some kings and some types of events and prophecies that had happened. So let me just get this out. So we have some timelines of some of the Babylonian captivity, some of the kings that were in at that time. So the timelines are approximate. They're not 100% because you have different timelines and different types of information in the history that you look at. But with the one I have, we do have Nebuchadnezzar from six, what's that right there? 626 to 605, right? We have Nebuchadnezzar from 605 to 562 approximately. We have Amel, the evil King Marduk, from 562 to 556, right? Then we have also Nabonidus and Belshazzar from 556 to 539. So those are just some of the timelines and some of the Babylonian kings that we have, along with many prophets that were contemporary at that time, and you have to look at the timeline like what we're going over from roughly 626 to 539 because it was a 70-year captivity. But, like I said, we have some of the kings right here with Zedekiah, Jehoiachin, Jehoiakim, amongst a few others, right, that were in that captivity. Because before that you had the Syrian captivity, which is a captivity that was longer, right? But when you go to Second Kings, the 17th, 18th chapter, that's when you start seeing the fall of the Syrian captivity, and you start getting into the Babylonian captivity with some of the prophets that were contemporary that we're talking about, right? From right here, you got Ezekiel, you have Jeremiah, amongst a few others, right? So Northern Kingdom and Southern Kingdom were very wicked and were worshiping, they were into idolatry. They were, evil. A couple of kings, well, I know one for sure that was passing the sun through the fire, and that would have been Manasseh that brought tragedy on his kingdom. But the Most High, he knew all these things were going to come to pass. That's why a prophecy that came from Jeremiah, about the captivity of the Israelites, right? So those are some things that, we have to read. And because time and time again, we see that the captivities were prophesied, right? Even from the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, about eating your children's flesh, when our people went to captivity, a lot of our people were exiled, many times before they got into the captivity, they starved out the resources, right? First, you take over a city, whatever, right? The first few weeks, maybe the the brief time that you're into that captivity, things haven't really hit yet. You start cutting off people's resources, right? Their water, their food. People get crazy, they get desperate, they do awful things. So there's some things that we see that were prophesized, right, from Jeremiah to Isaiah, to even the prophecies of these empires falling, because these empires were so prideful, that they thought they were going to reign forever. And that's the same thing as this hateful, this whatchamacallit, this United Snakes of America, the cage of every hateful and unclean bird, right? You looked at every civilization that has conquered, and they've never retired or prospered forever. The kingdoms always come falling down. That's because the pride of these kingdoms that they have, right? That they come over, they put the our people into captivity. Then they put up their abominations and desolations, right? So these abominations and desolations could be many things, back then and today, right? These false gods that we have, right? these monuments that people put up. Everything has symbolism to it, right? It's symbolic things that you know that people put up that used to be a secret that aren't a secret no more, right? So we see time and time again that these kingdoms, they're torn down, right? Because every empire that has conquered somebody has never just retired and been that way. Like even from the time of Rome, right? How they were overtaken. They thought they were going to be ruling forever, right? There's just so much things that are going on. So, we're going to get into some of the history and prophecies that were going, Salakia. We're going to get into some of the histories and prophecies, that the Bible talks about. So, let's get this out. Let me go to my first verse. I'm going to start off in here. We're going to go to Jeremiah chapter 25, and we're going to take it from verse 12. Okay. And it reads, "And it shall come to pass when 70 years are accomplished, that I will punish the king of Babylon and the nation, saith the Lord, for their iniquity and the land of the Chaldeans, and will make it a perpetual desolation." Continue to read and says, "And I will bring upon that land all my words which I have pronounced against it, even all that is written in this book, which Jeremiah hath prophesied against all the nations." Right? Verse 14. "For many nations and great kings shall serve themselves of them also, and I will recompense them according to their deeds and according to the works of their own hands." And the Most High's word does not come back void, right? We see that our people were going to put into a 70-year captivity. We knew that was coming, right? And also, too, the destruction, that's Revelations 13 and 10, right? "He that leadeth in captivity shall go into captivity," right? "He that kills with the sword shall be killed with the sword." So the Most High, he's just. We see that our people were going to be destroyed, along with the wicked kings and these heathen nations that rule over us. So, that's just something that we have to be mindful when it comes to the scriptures and the prophecies, right? So, Salakia, we're going to get a couple more. Let's go to 2 Kings chapter 20. We're going to take it verse 12 through 19. See if this computer could keep up. So let's bring this out. Okay, there we go. Okay. So this has to do with a little bit more prophecy that was coming to, Hezekiah, the king of Judah, right? And Hezekiah was a righteous king. He was right after Hoshea, which was a wicked king. So let's get this out. This 2 Kings chapter 20, we're going to take it from verse 12, and it reads, "At that time, Baradosh, Baradosh Baladan, the son of Baladan, the king of Babylon, sent letters and a present to Hezekiah, for he had heard that Hezekiah had been sick. And Hezekiah hearkened unto him and showed him all the house of the precious things, the silver and the gold and the spices and the precious ointment, and all the house of his farmer, and all that was found in his treasures. There was nothing in his house, nor in all his dominion, that Hezekiah showed him not. So Hezekiah, he showed this man everything that he had, that he's had stored up in the treasure. That's like today, right? Pulling out a big old wad when you go outside. Like the book of Sirach talks about never trust thy enemy, because as his just as iron rusteth, so does his wickedness. And I'm roughly paraphrasing that. Verse 14. Then came Isaiah the prophet unto King Hezekiah and said unto him, what said these men? And from whence came they unto thee? And Hezekiah said, they are come from a far country, even from Babylon. And he said, what have they seen in thine house? And Hezekiah answered, all the things that are in mine house have they seen. There is nothing among my treasures that I have not shewed them. So this is one thing, we got to use wisdom when it comes to people, right? Um, Everything's written down and plays out to the hand of the Most High, but you can see obviously there's no wisdom that was used in this, right? Verse 16. And Isaiah said unto Hezekiah, hear the word of the Lord. Behold, the days come, at all that is in thy house, and that which thy fathers have laid up in store unto this day shall be carried into Babylon. Nothing shall be left, saith the Lord. And of thy sons that shall issue from thee, which thou shalt beget, shall they take away, and they shall be eunuchs in the palace of the king of Babylon. Then said Hezekiah unto Isaiah, God is the word of the Lord which thou hast spoken. And he said, it is not good if peace and truth be in my days. Right? So there's a few things going on right here that we're going to cover that's in the next chapter, right? Like we see that this prophecy is going to come to pass, right? Then we see that the mind state that Hezekiah had, when he knew judgment was coming. But, we're going to get into that in a little bit, right? Let's get some more clarity on this. We're going to go to Isaiah chapter 39, verse 1 and 2. It's the same things about Hezekiah showing off his treasure, right? So it reads, at that time, Merodach Baladan, the son of Baladan, the king of Babylon, sent letters and a present to Hezekiah, for he had heard he had been sick and was recovered. And Hezekiah was glad of them and showed them the house of his precious things, the silver, the gold, the spices, precious ointment, and the house of his armor, and all that was found in his treasures. There was nothing in his house nor in his dominion that Hezekiah showed them not, right? So this is just telling you, like, man, he had his doors open. He was showing him everything. There was nothing in his possession that he did not show them. From him being sick, he was given a gift, right? But what does the scripture say? A gift destroys the heart, right? It clouds our judgment. So this is what we see happen to Hezekiah, right? So Slakia. So we see, that there was prophecies about, Babylon coming, taking over in a 70-year period. We do see where it's starting off at, where Hezekiah shows off everything that, he had, right? So we were attacked by the Babylons, by the Babylonians, and they came in 3 waves of captivity. So, that's something that we have to look at when it comes to these scriptures, it's the history. You got to look at the timelines, right? Because everything that's written just doesn't fit together in a puzzle with the chronology. Sometimes there was instances where things happened back to back. Sometimes it wasn't. Sometimes there was some space, right? Sometimes it was one attack. Sometimes there was a few attacks, right? So let's get this out, to my next scripture. We're going to go to Jeremiah chapter 52, and we'll take it from verse 28. You know, it's one thing when you're reading these scriptures. I read Jeremiah probably like a couple of times, and every time you finish reading it, you find more things, right? You dig deeper into the layers. You find there's some gems that you missed that were on the floor, right? Um, when you read Second Kings chapter 24 and 25, you can find a lot of it continued from Jeremiah 50 and on. So we're going to take this from Jeremiah chapter 52. And that's why the scripture says, blessed is he that reads, right? Blessed is he that keepeth the commandments. People can argue what Paul said, right? So when you go to Hebrews 10, chapter 10, verse 26, it says that after we receive the knowledge of truth, there remaineth no more sacrifice for our sins, right? Then when you go to after Paul, all the way to Revelations, it says, blessed is he that reads. Also, there's another chapter and verse in Revelation that says, blessed is he that keeps the commandments. So let's get this out. We're going to go to the first wave of captivity, right? And let me see here. There's Jeremiah chapter 52, chapter 28, and it reads, this is the people whom Nebuchadnezzar carried away captive in the 7th year, 3,000 Jews and 320. And in the 18th year of Nebuchadnezzar's, in the year of Nebuchadnezzar, he carried away captive from Jerusalem 832 persons, right? So you look at this right here, and this is the first wave and the second wave, right? Where the first wave would have been in the 7th year, right? Approximately 597 BC, where he took over 3,000 people captive, right? That's quite a lot of people, and then his second wave, which would have been his 18th year, approximately 586 BC, right? We see that he took like, what would it say? He got 832 persons, right? And then this is where you got your third wave of attack right here, where he got more captives, right? So let's get this out. It says, verse 30, in the 23rd year of Nebuchadnezzar's, Nebuzaradan, the captain of the guard, carried away captive of the Jews 745 persons. All the persons were 4,600. So that's together. But he did that within 3 waves of attacks, right? So yeah, we're getting into it. We see that not only that we were in a Babylonian captivity, but it was under 3 waves of attack from one king, right? So let's get Salakia, where we at now? Okay, so we see that there was prophecy, right? We know that it was because of Israel and Judah's transgressions, right? So let's get some more scriptures out. Let's go to Jeremiah chapter 22. That's the thing too, like with these books, like whether it be Isaiah and Jeremiah, Jeremiah is a great book, and Chronicles to go back with Second Kings, right? Just cross-referencing each other. All right, so we're going to Jeremiah chapter 22. And we're going to take it from verse 24 through 30. If this computer could keep up. Got to clean off the Mac. All right, here we go. All right, so there's a warning towards Israel's kings, which have been multiple times, different kings, right? Even with the prophets. It reads, as I live, saith the Lord, though Coniah, which, is Jessaniah, right? The son of Jehoiakim, which his name right there is Jehoiachin, in Second Kings, chapter, I believe 24 or 25. Let me take it from the top again, Salakia. As I live, saith the Lord, through Coniah, the son of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, were the signet upon my right hand. Yet would I pluck thee thence, and will give thee to the hand of them that seek thy life, and into the hand of them whose face thou fearest, right? To our enemies, even into the hand of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, and into the hand of the Chaldeans. And I will cast thee out and thy mother that bare thee into another country, exile, right? Where ye were not born, and there shall ye die. But to the land whereunto they desire to return, thither shall they return not, right? So, yeah, we're going to be exiled, not come back, right? Let me continue on. Is this man, Coniah, a despised broken idol? Is he a vessel wherein is no pleasure? Wherefore are they cast out, he and his seed, and are cast into a land which they know not? O earth, 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 hear the word of the Lord. Thus saith the Lord, writ ye this man childless, a man that shall not prosper in his days, for no man of his seed shall prosper, sitting upon the throne of David and ruling anymore in Judah. So we see, that prophecy coming towards this king right here, right? Because many of our kings were wicked and evil, right? Northern kingdom fell off first, and after that, you had the southern kingdom fell off, just as bad or even worse, right? So it was all our people. So we see that Jehoiachin, prophecies, his destruction is prophesied right here. That's what's going to happen to him, right? Then you also have too the prophecy of Zedekiah coming down right now. Zedekiah, his name was changed also. His name would have been Mattaniah, in the Hebrew, right? But that's what these rulers do, right? They tear down your altars, whatever is holy. They tear that down. They put up their gods. They take away your name, and that's what they do that name change because of for them to be the subservient heir to the king of Babylon or whatever oppressors in at that time. So let's get our next scripture out regarding Zedekiah, and we'll go to Jeremiah chapter 34 for that. Here we go. And it reads, the word which came unto Jeremiah from the Lord, when Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, and all his army, and all the kingdoms of the earth of his dominion, and all the people fought against Jerusalem, and against all the cities thereof, saying, thus saith the Lord, the God of Israel, go and speak to Zedekiah, king of Judah, and tell him, thus saith the Lord, behold, I will give this city into the hand of the king of Babylon, and he shall burn it with fire. And thou shalt not escape out of his hand, but shall surely be taken and delivered into his hand. And thine, Salakia, and thy eyes shall behold the eyes of the king of Babylon, and he shall speak with thee mouth to mouth, and thou shalt go to Babylon. Yet hear the word of the Lord, O Zedekiah, king of Judah. Thus saith the Lord of thee, thou shalt not die by the sword, but thou shalt die in peace with the burnings of thy fathers, the former kings which were before thee. So shall they burn odors for thee, and they will lament thee, saying, ah, Lord, for I have pronounced the word, saith the Lord. I'll take it to 6 and 7. And it reads, then Jeremiah the prophet spake all these words to Zedekiah, king of Judah and Jerusalem, when the king of Babylon's army fought against Jerusalem and against all the cities of Judah that were left, against Lachish, against Ezekah. For these defense cities remain of the cities of Judah. So We see right here, what was prophesied against the king of Zedekiah, right? And whatchamacallit, right around this time, Babylon did get their recompense not too far after this had happened right here with Zedekiah. We're going to get into that in a little bit. So let's get back to where I was, Slovakia. So they're just some examples of the kings that were warned, right? And we're going to get into that and see what happened to these kings. So with that, we're going to get to the end of the Assyrian captivity and paint a picture and see, how that captivity ended and the next captivity began. So let me get to my next scripture. So bear with me. All right, and we'll take it from. It's going to skim real fast. Probably from 17. All right. This Second Kings chapter 17. And we're just going to skim through some of it because there's a lot of stuff happening right here. But this towards the end of the Assyrian captivity, right? Um, the first 17 chapter, 2 Kings chapter 17 and verse 1. It reads, in the 12th year of Ahaz, king of Judah, began Hoshea, the son of Elah, to reign in Samaria over Israel 9 years. And he did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord, but not as the kings of Israel that were before him. Against him came up Salmanasar, king of Assyria, and Hoshea became his servant and gave him presents. And the king of Assyria found conspiracy in Hoshea, for he had sent messengers to So king of Egypt and brought no present to the king of Assyria. And he had done year by year. Therefore, the king of Assyria shut him up and bound him up in prison. So they were trying to make an alliance with Egypt to fight against Assyria. But ultimately, you can't fight the Most High's judgment, right? The Most High uses these other nations as vessels to punish us. In verse 1, Hoshea is a wicked ruler. Before that, you had Ahaz, which was a wicked ruler also, right? So let me see here. Let's get to my next scripture. Let's go to verse 5. We're just going to skim through a little bit. Okay. There's just a lot to go through over here, so just bear with me. All right. Verse 5. And it reads, then the king of Assyria came up throughout all the land and went up to Samaria and besieged it 3 years, right? So it took 3 years for him to do that. In the 9th year of Hosea, the king of Assyria took Samaria and carried Israel away into Assyria and placed them in Halah and Habor by the river goes on and in the cities of the Medes. For so it was, the children of Israel had sinned against the Lord their God, which had brought them out of the land of Egypt from under the hand of Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, and had feared other gods and walked in the statutes of the heathen, whom the Lord has cast out from before the children of Israel and the kings of Israel, which they had made. And the children of Israel did secretly those things that were not right against the Lord their God, and built them high places in all their cities, from the tower of the watchmen to the fenced city. So we see, that our people are just doing wicked. It's like when the Most High or Salaki, the angel, was talking with Ezekiel, right? And he showed them what the people were doing through the wall, that the Most High sees everything, right? So we see that the wickedness that was being created by our people, right? So this gets a little bit more. We're gonna jump down to verse 15. And it reads, come on. And they rejected his statutes and his covenant that he made with their fathers and his testimonies. So when you're reading about this type of stuff, you need to put yourself in, you got to put yourself in this Bible, because you believe in the Bible, you believe in regeneration, right? You believe that some of us, that we were those spirits and these people back then, right? That these covenants were made with our forefathers, right? That you have to put yourself in that, for it to mean a lot, you have to put yourself in this, right? It says that they rejected his statutes and his covenant that he made with their fathers. That's everything, right? That the Most High said, that he'll put us above high, right? That he was going to give us our land, and everything was always based off of faith, right? Man, you get back to our was Salakia. Sometimes I lose my train of thought when it's just like when somebody wants to ask a question about a scripture or something like that, right? Like when you've been doing this truth for a little bit, you've been in it, and you pray that you stay in it, right? When somebody asks something and you know that they haven't read, but yet they ask you, it gets frustrating, right? It's like the same thing when you hear that our people went off when they saw the proof, the Most High, they saw his promises, his deliverance, right? And then you see that they still rejected his word, right? From the Exodus to Egypt to the successors going to the promised land, right? Caleb and Joshua, I believe they're the only two that saw that promised land, right? That Moses wasn't able to see it because under his watch, the people erred, right? Man, it's just real thick and heavy, Slakia. Let me finish this off. Verse 16. And they left all the commandments of the Lord their God and made them molten images, even 2 calves, and made a grove and worshiped all the hosts of heaven and served Baal. And they caused their sons and their daughters to pass through the fire and use divination and enchantments and sold themselves to do evil on the side of the Lord to provoke him to anger. Therefore, the Lord was very angry with Israel and removed them out of his sight. And there was none left but the tribe of Judah only. Verse 19. Also, Judah kept not the commandments of the Lord, their God, but walked in the statutes of Israel, which they made. And the Lord rejected all the seed of Israel and afflicted them and delivered them into the hand of the spoilers until he had cast them out of his sight. See, all the people just doing wicked, right? It's just like a free for all, and we still see our people doing this stuff today, right? All these enchantments, right? Black magic, tarot cards, Santa Muerte, all this type of just folly, stupidity, right? That our people are gonna get destroyed for that. This one that you have to believe that, right? The Most High's word does not come back void. All right, so let me get back to where I was. We got to try to just paint a picture of what's going on. But you know what, though? I'm not trying to make this a 5-hour thing. So let me get back to where I was. So we were on Hoshea. He was a wicked king. We see that the people were doing wicked practices under his watch. Before that, King Ahaz in chapter 16 was doing wicked also, right? So let's go to chapter 18. What's going on with this thing? Come on. Don't crash on me now. Uh-oh. All right, here we go. All right, 2 Kings chapter 18. Let's take it at the top. Slacking the mouse is kind of tripping. All right, so we got Hezekiah, which is the next ruler, right? So Hezekiah is an interesting story. He was a good ruler. He was righteous. The Most High heard him. He heard his prayers. Even with the chips, stacked against you, right? So let's get this out. I'll take it from verse 1 through 3. I'll take it a little further, but we're going to start it off. And it reads, Now it came to pass in the 3rd year of Hoshea, son of Elah, king of Israel, that Hezekiah, the son of Ahaz, king of Judah, began to reign. 25 years old he was when he began to reign, and he reigned 29 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name also was, let's see here, Abi, the daughter of Zechariah, and he did that which was right in the sight of the Lord, according to all that David his father did. He removed the high places and break the images and cut down the groves and break in pieces the brazen serpent that Moses had made. You know what? A good point right there. Because that serpent, that brass serpent that Moses made, our people worship it, right? Now, if you think about this too, like they never found Moses' body, right? That was for a reason, because the type of man that Moses was, I guarantee that our people would have worshipped his tomb, just the way our people were. I guarantee that that's what they would have did. Let me get back to where I was. Verse 4. He removed the high places and break the images and cut down the groves and break in pieces the brazen serpent that Moses had made. For until those days the children of Israel did burn incense into it, and he called it Nehushtan. And he trusted in the Lord God of Israel, so that after him was none like him among all the kings of Judah, nor any that were before him. For he clave to the Lord and departed not from following him, but kept his commandments, which the Lord commanded Moses. All praises to the Most High. This was a righteous king. Hezekiah is a strong name. When I was a kid, I heard that name a couple of times. It kind of sounds like foreign to me. But now, in the truth now, like, man, that's a strong name right there. That's a very strong name, right? So we have the accounts what Hezekiah did, right? He was righteous, so and all this was during the Syrian captivity, right? There goes Syrian king Sennacherib, right? So let's go to verse 13. And this is where the Assyrian captivity happens during, Hezekiah's reign, right? And it reads, now in the 14th year of King Hezekiah did Sennacherib, the king of Assyria, come up against all the fenced cities of Judah and took them. And Hezekiah, the king of Judah, sent to the king of Syria to Lachish, saying, I have offended, return from me. That which thou puttest on me, I will bear. And the king of Assyria appointed unto Hezekiah, king of Judah, 300 talents of silver, 30 talents of gold. And Hezekiah gave him all the silver that was found in the house of the Lord, and the treasures in the king's house. At that time did Hezekiah cut off the gold from the doors of the temple of the Lord, from the pillars which Hezekiah, king of Judah, had overlaid, and gave it to the king of Assyria. So we see that, Hezekiah showed everything that was in the temple that Isaiah prophesied was going to happen, right, with the captivity. So we see those things that came to pass, even though Hezekiah was a righteous king, right? So we see also too going down that Sennacherib threatens Jerusalem, right? In verse 19. Get this. And it reads, and Rabshakeh said unto them, speak ye now unto Hezekiah, thus saith the great king, the king of Assyria, what confidence is this wherein thou trustest, right? So he's mocking our Most High God. He's mocking our people from believing. Verse 20, thou sayest, but they are but vain words. I have counsel and strength for the war. Now on whom dost thou trust, that thou rebellest against me? Now behold, thou treadest upon the staff of his bruised reed, even upon Egypt, on which if a man lean, it will go into his hand and pierce it. So is Pharaoh, king of Egypt, unto all that trust on him. But if ye say unto me, we trust in the Lord our God, is not that he whose high places and whose altars Hezekiah had taken away? So he's ridiculing him for like the tribute that he's paid, right? And saying like, if there was the Most High God that we leaned on and had the faith on, that we wouldn't have to do that, right? And it continues, Judah and Jerusalem, ye shall worship before this altar in Jerusalem. Now, therefore, I pray thee, give pledges to my Lord, king of Assyria, and I will deliver thee 2,000 horses, right? If thou be able on thy part to set riders upon them. How then wilt thou turn away the face of one captain of the least of my master's servants to put thy trust on Egypt for chariots and for horsemen? And I'll come up without the Lord against this place to destroy? The Lord said to me, go up this land and destroy it. Man, man, that's heavy right there, right? So let's go to verse 26. And it reads, then Eliakim, and Eliakim's name was changed to um, from the Pharaoh Necho of Egypt to Jehoiakim, which is, like I said, subservient to heir, right, of Necho, subservient heir of Necho, that he changed his name, right, these slave names. So let me continue where I was. You know, after talking to the Syrian chief, you know, he's talking back and saying, verse 26, then said Eliakim, the son of Hilkiah, and Shebna, and Joah, and Rabshakeh, speak, I pray thee, to thy servants in the Syrian language, for we understand it, and talk not with us in the Jews' language in the ears of the people that are on the wall. But Rabshakeh said unto them, hath my master sent me to thy master and to thee to speak these words? Hath he not sent me unto the men which sit on the wall? So he wanted everybody to hear what he had to say for these threats being made, that they may eat their own dung and drink their own piss with you. Man, he's like, you know, don't hide it. You know, we're going to speak in a language where everybody could understand it, right? So let's continue on. You know, this wicked man is blasphemous. So we go to verse 29, and it reads, Slack it. Well, I shouldn't have did that. Get back to where I was, verse 29. Verse 29. Here we go. Computers. Bear with me. I'm transitioning from the iPhone to the Mac. All right. All right, here we go. We'll take it from 29, and it reads, thus saith the king, let not Hezekiah deceive you, for he shall not be able to deliver you out of his hand. Neither let Hezekiah make you trust in the Lord, saying, the Lord will surely deliver us, and this city shall not be delivered into the hand of the king of Assyria. Hearken not to Hezekiah, for thus saith the king of Assyria, make an agreement with me by a present, and come out to me, and then eat ye every man of his own vine, and every one of his own fig tree, and drink ye every one the waters of his cistern. So we see, you know, what blasphemy is, right? It's when you stain the reputation of the Most High. And this is what this man's doing. Right here, what it says, verse 29, right? He shall not be able to deliver you out of his hand, neither let Hezekiah make you trust in the Lord. saying, the Lord will surely deliver us, and the city shall not be delivered into the hand of the king of Assyria, right? So because he's saying these things is the reason for the Assyrian captivity, for it to end, right? That's how pride they were, right? That they used to, whatchamacallit, put their kings as gods, right? So let me get back to where I was. All right, so let's get back to where we were. Let's go to the next chapter. You know, this is where Hezekiah does seek the Most High God's help, right? So right now, we're seeing that the Assyrian captivity is going to end, right? And though you have some good kings, because the prophecy of our people, it's like a scale, right? The Most High is just. We could have a few good, solid people, but because of the sins of our people collectively, we see that that the destruction came upon our people, right? That's like a whole thing too. Would be a camp or a congregation, you know, you gotta keep that leaven out, right? Gotta keep that transgression out. So we're gonna read verse 19, chapter 19, verse 1. And we'll take it maybe 4 verses, and it reads, and it came to pass when King Hezekiah heard it, that he rent his clothes and covered himself with sackcloth, and went to his house, the house of the Lord, and he sent Eliakim, which was over the household, and Shebna the scribe, and the elders and the priests, covered with sackcloth, to Isaiah the prophet, the son of Amos. And they said unto him, thus saith Hezekiah, this day is a day of trouble and rebuke and blasphemy. That's what we talked about, right? When you stain the Most High's reputation, right? When you say that he's going to do something or can't do something that you know very well that he's capable of doing, right? For the children are come to the birth, and there is not strength to bring forth, right? So it's like a woman that can't give birth, right? It may be the Lord thy God will hear all the words of Rabshakeh, whom the king of Assyria and his master has sent to reproach the living God, and will reprove the words which the Lord thy God hath heard. Wherefore lift up thy prayer for the remnant that are left. So the servants of Hezekiah came to Isaiah, and Isaiah said unto them, thus shall ye say to your master, thus saith the Lord, be not afraid of the words which thou hast heard, with which the servants of the king of Assyria have blasphemed me. Behold, I will send a blast upon them, and they shall hear a rumor, and shall return to his own land, and I will cause him to fall by the sword in his own land. Right? So when you see, or when read about who he got killed by, man, like I said, the Most High's word does not come back void, right? Like you. All right, so we continue to go to verse 10. Probably should have did a couple of parts on this. All right, so this has to do once again with the blasphemous letter, right? It reads, thus shall ye speak to Hezekiah, king of Judah, saying, let not thy God in whom thou trustest deceive thee, saying, Jerusalem shall not be delivered into the hand of the king of Assyria, right? Behold, thou hast heard what the king of Assyria have done to all lands by destroying them utterly. So he's trying to pump this fear, right? This by using blasphemy, right? Just like what people could do today, right? Like you trust in your God, like he don't do anything for you. Like they're going to keep telling us that. They're going to keep trying to beat us down, right? Our back's going to be against the wall, but it's a remnant, right? It's like this faith that you have when nothing's happening your way, right? Even if you're standing alone against 100 people, even if you're in the midst of wolves, right? And you're in the lion's den, right? This is when you have to have that faith, right? The faith that Abraham had, right? By being prepared to sacrifice his only son, knowing that his son would have been regenerated, right? Knowing what the Most High God is capable of. So, you know, let me continue on, Salakia. We're going to go verse 15. And it reads, beautiful, Hezekiah's prayer. And Hezekiah prayed before the Lord and said, O Lord, God of Israel, which dwellest between the cherubims, thou art of Yahweh, even thou alone of all the kingdoms of all the earth, thou hast made heaven and earth. Lord, bow down to thy ear and hear. Open, Lord, thy eyes and see and hear the words of Sennacherib, which hath sent him to reproach the living God of a truth. Lord, the king of Assyria have destroyed the nations and their lands, and have cast their gods into the fire, for they were no gods, but the work of men's hands, wood, stone. Therefore they have destroyed them. Now therefore, O Lord, our God, I beseech thee, save thou us out of his hand, that all the kingdoms of the earth may know that thou art the Lord Yahweh, even though thou only, right? So this is a prayer right here. So we're going to skip a little bit, right? And go down to verse 35. Now check this out, right? All right. So we see the king, and he was being blasphemous, right? A different nation, a heathen, right? The Most High said he was going to send him to his own land, where he something about the sword. He was going to be sent in his own land. Now let's read this and check this out. This is verse 35 and verse 36. Let's get this. And it came to pass that night, the angel of the Lord went out and smote in the camp of the Assyrians 185,000. And when they arose early in the morning, behold, they were all dead corpses. So Sennacherib, king of Assyria, departed and went and returned and dwelt in Nineveh. And it came to pass, as he was worshiping in the house of Nisroch, his god, that Adramelech and Sharezer, his sons, smote him with the sword, and they escaped into the land of Armenia, and Esarhaddon and his son reigned in his stead. So this man was killed by his own sons. So you don't play with the Most High, especially when you blaspheme his name, right? So, verse 20. We're just going to skim through this real fast, right? Take it from verse 1 through 6. And it reads, if you can keep up with me. Block you. There we go. In those days was Hezekiah sick unto death, and the prophet Isaiah, the son of Amos, came, said to him, and said unto him, Thus saith the Lord, set thy house in order, for thou shalt die and not live. Then he turned his face to the wall and prayed unto the Lord, saying, I beseech thee, O Lord, remember now how I walked before thee in the truth with a perfect heart, and have not done that which is good in thy sight. Salakia. I beseech thee, O Lord, remember now how I have walked before thee in truth and with a perfect heart, and have done that which is good in thy sight. And Hezekiah wept sore. So we see that this man was righteous, right? You still have captivity coming. You have these kings coming. He's still being attacked. It's because most of our people were evil and were doing bad. That's how it's going to be in this truth. You're going to have a few that are walking uprightly, right? But 2/3 of the people could be fucked up. 2/3 of the people in transgression. 2/3 of people angry, violent, blasphemers, talking about you, dope, drugs, alcoholics, right? Rapists, child molesters. 2/3 of the people. Verse 4, and it came to pass, afore Isaiah was gone out into the middle of the court, that the word of the Lord came unto him, saying, Turn again and tell Hezekiah, the captain of my people, thus saith the Lord, Yahweh of David thy father, I have heard the prayer and have seen the tears. Behold, I will heal thee on the third day, and thou shalt go up into the house of the Lord, and I will add unto thee 15 years, and will deliver thee into the city out of the hand of the king of Assyria, and I will defend this city for my own sake and for my servant David's sake. So he heard his prayer, right? You know, man, that's why you gotta walk up righteous, do best you can, right? For your prayers to be heard. And for those that are in this ministry that you depend on, we depend on our brothers, our sisters, the soldiers to be diligent in this walk, right? Because when it's going to come time where you're going to need that soldier, that brother, that sister, whatever have you, to have those prayers to be counted. So let me continue where I am, right here off of he said he was going to add 15 years to Hezekiah's life, right? So we take that from the sundial, because Hezekiah he didn't have a peace of mind. He wanted to be reassured. So he would take 15 years and add it onto his life. And we're going to read right here in verse 9 what's this talking about, and it reads, "And Isaiah said, This sign shalt thou have of the Lord, that the Lord will do these things that he has spoken. Shall the shadow go forward 10 degrees or back 10 degrees? Hezekiah answered, It is a light thing for the shadow to go down 10 degrees. Nay, but let the shadow return backwards 10 degrees. And Isaiah the prophet cried unto the Lord, and he brought the shadow 10 degrees backwards, by which it had gone down in the dial of Ahaz." Right? So this time, the shadow went back 10 degrees backwards instead of going forward. That was a proof that the time of 15 years was going to be added to Hezekiah's life, right? So we read earlier in verse 12 the prophecy of captivity from Babylon, right? And that was having to do with where are we at? 20 and verse 12, right? This is what we read earlier, prophesied for Babylon, right? So Hezekiah gets his 15 years of his life added, right? Then you see in verse 12, what we read earlier, at that time, Berodach-Shaban, the son of Baldan, the king of Babylon, sent letters and a present to Hezekiah, because he got better. Then this is when Hezekiah showed him everything that he had, right? For he had heard Hezekiah had been sick, and Hezekiah hearkened unto him and showed him all the house of his precious things, the silver, the gold, the spices, and the precious ointment, and all the house of his armor, and all that was found in his treasures. There was nothing in his house nor in his dominion that Hezekiah showed him not. Then came Isaiah the prophet unto Hezekiah and said unto him, What said these men? And from whence came they unto thee? And Hezekiah said, They come from a far country, even Babylon. And he said, What have they seen in thine house? And Hezekiah answered, All the things that are in my house they have seen. There is nothing among my treasures that I have not showed them. So in verse 16, we see, that it's prophesied that we're going to Babylonian captivity. Let's get it. Once again, this just recapping where we started from at the beginning of this lesson. And Isaiah said unto Hezekiah, Hear the word of the Lord. Behold, the days come that all that in thy house and which thy fathers laid up and stored unto this day shall be carried into Babylon. Nothing shall be left, saith the Lord. And of thy sons that shall issue from thee, which thou shalt beget, shall they take away, and they shall be eunuchs in the palace of the kings of Babylon. Then said Hezekiah unto Isaiah, Good is the word of the Lord which thou hast spoken. And he said, Is it not good if peace and truth may be in my days? All right, so we see that this prophecy is coming to pass, right? But, however, in verse 19, you really have to look at that. Then said Hezekiah unto Isaiah, Good is the word of the Lord which thou hast spoken. And he said, It is not good if peace and truth be in my days. So Hezekiah was feeling At least there will be peace and security during my lifetime. He knew that Babylonian captivity was coming, but he knew he had 15 years at it on his life, and there would be peace and security during his lifetime, right? So we continue on. All right, this name right here, Manasseh, remember that name, okay? Oftentimes, there's different Manassehs, right? There's different Zacharias, right? So you'll see this name come up a few times in the scriptures, but just pay attention to this name, Manasseh. And the rest of the acts of Hezekiah and all his might, and how he made a pool and a conduit and brought water into the city, they are not written in the book of Chronicles of the kings of Judah. And Hezekiah slept with his fathers, and Manasseh his son reigned in his stead. So we're getting to, the end of the Assyrian captivity, right? So we see there was evil kings. The Assyrian captivity was ended because of their pridefulness, right? The Most High smote that army with the angel, then used Sennacherib's sons to slay him while he was worshiping his God, right? So we continue on, okay, because Second Kings ends at chapter 25, right? So you go to chapter 21, and this is where we're starting to get into it. These are the things that bring the destruction upon our people, right? All right, so this is Hezekiah's son Manasseh, and it reads, we'll take it from verse 1 through 6. So let me get this out. All right. We might have read this one a little bit earlier too. I'm not sure, but let's get these key points, right? So once again, we're recapping, right? The prophecies, 70-year captivity, Babylon, right? Assyrian captivity that was ending, right? You could be a righteous king doing, the Most High could hear you, but people still going to be punished, right? The prophet Isaiah said what was going to happen, right? Hezekiah got a letter from that evil king Marduk that he was a backstabber, a two-faced, right? That he gave him a gift for getting better, but Hezekiah showed him everything that he owned, and that was the prophecy that Babylon was going to come and take everything he had, right? But this right here is like the main reason why the Most High knew how wicked our people were. This right here in chapter 21 is a straw that broke the camel's back, figuratively speaking, right? So let's get this out. Verse 1, Manasseh was 12 years old when he began to reign, and reigned 50 and 5 years in Jerusalem, and his mother's name was Hephzibah. And he did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord after the abominations of the heathen, whom the Lord cast out before the children of Israel. For he built up again the high places which Hezekiah his father had destroyed, and he reared up altars of Baal and made a grove, as did Ahab, king of Israel. That would be, I believe, the 16th chapter. And worshipped all the hosts of heaven and served them. He built altars in the house of the Lord, which the Lord said, in Jerusalem, I will put my name. And he built altars for all the host of heaven in the two courts in the house of the Lord. And he made his son pass through the fire and observe times and use enchantments. Because this man was into astrology, he was into witchcraft. Continue reading, and it says, and dealt with familiar spirits and wizards, right? He wrought much wickedness in the sight of the Lord to provoke him to anger. See, the Most High, he had it with this king. He had it with this king. This is the straw that broke the camel's back. Let's go to verse 10. It reads 10 to 12. And the Lord spake by his servants the prophets, saying, because Manasseh, king of Judah, had done these abominations, and had done wickedly above all the Amorites did, which were before him, and had made Judah also to sin with his idols. Therefore saith the Lord Yahweh of Israel, behold, I am bringing such an evil upon Jerusalem and Judah, that whosoever heareth of it, both his ears shall tingle. Whew. It's like was said, man, can you imagine that? Something so bad, right? That would be like something prophesied that you know is going to happen to make your ears tingle today, right? What would be some things that make your ear tingle? That your house is going to get took, that your children are going to get destroyed, that everything you have is going to be gone, right? Man, this is the straw that broke the camel's back, putting his son through the fire. That's how wicked our people were, right? Let's continue on. Next chapter. Let's get this. Now we're talking about Josiah, right? The next king, right? So pretty much Manasseh did so much evil that it was prophesied what the Most High was going to do to the people, even if a righteous king was next. You see, the damage was already done. The prophecies were already there. The Most High already had spoken. Even though you have a good king after Manasseh, the damage was already done. Let's get this. This is verse 1 and verse 2. We're gonna read. Josiah was 8 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 30 and 1 years in Jerusalem, and his mother's name was Jedidiah, the daughter of Adiah Baalskath, and he did which was right in the sight of the Lord, and walked in the way of David his father, and turned not aside to the right hand or to the left. This man was steadfast. He was going straight, right? Doing good deeds of the Most High. You know, man, nobody had a Passover like how Josiah did, right? Man, Josiah was a good king. Josiah, verse 3, he repairs the temple. You see all these good things that happened under his reign. Hilkiah finds the book of the law, right? Because under these captivities, you know, we lost things. We had to get them back, right? Yeah. So we see that we had a righteous king after Manasseh, but still captivity had to come, right? Josiah's reforms, right? He renews the covenant. So let's get a little bit of that and just show how much of a good king he was. All right, Shalakia. And it reads, and the king sent, and they gathered unto him all the elders of Judah and Jerusalem. And the king went up to the house of the Lord, and all the men of Judah, and all the inhabitants of Judah, Jerusalem with him, and the priests and the prophets, and all the people, both small and great. And he read in their ears all the words of the book of the covenant, which was found in the house of the Lord. All praises to the Most High. And the king stood by a pillar and made a covenant before the Lord to walk after the Lord, to keep his commandments and testimonies and his statutes with all their heart and their soul, and to perform the words of this covenant that were written in the book. And all the people stood to the covenant. So Josiah was a good king. In verse 4, he destroys idolatry, right? But, you know, he was warned also. He came across, I think it was an Egyptian. So he gets smoted, you know, and he was warned that God is not with you, that God sent me. Let me see if I can find that. Here we go. Verse 28. You know, he was a good king. You know, his time was a little bit cut short. You know, we saw Manasseh being evil. The damage was already done. Josiah was a good king, but he got killed. Verse 28. Now the rest of the acts of Josiah and all that he did, are they not written in the book of Chronicles of the kings of Judah? In his days, Pharaoh Necho, right? That's the one that changed the names. Pharaoh Necho, right? He changed Eliakim's name to Jehoiakim, right? Um, he changed Zedekiah's name. Mattaniah's name to Zedekiah. So let me get this. Where was I at? Verse 28. Now the rest of the acts of Josiah and all that he did, are they not written in the book of Chronicles of the kings of Judah? In his days, Pharaoh Necho, the king of Egypt, went up against the king of Assyria to the river Euphrates, and King Josiah went against him, and he slew him in Megiddo when he had seen him. And his servants carried him in a chariot dead from Megiddo and brought him to Jerusalem, buried him in his own sepulchre. And the people of the land took Jehoaz the son of Josiah, and anointed him, made him a king in his father's stead. Okay, so let me see if I could find it. So like, yeah. Okay. Let me go up a little bit. All right, here we go. It's going the wrong way. All right, so yeah, Josiah restored the Passover. He's killed. Let me see if I can get more clarification right here. 35, 20 to 24. All right. So this is where Josiah was warned. We're going to take verse 20 through 24. So this is just like there's a lesson to be learned, right? Like he was a righteous king. But check this out. After all this, when Josiah had prepared the temple, Necho, king of Egypt, came up to fight against Carchemish by Euphrates, and Josiah went out against him. But he sent ambassadors to him, saying, "What have I to do with thee, thou king of Judah? I come not against thee this day, but against the house wherewith I have war. For God commanded me to make haste, forbear thee from meddling with Yahweh, who is with me, that he destroy thee not." Nevertheless, Josiah would not turn his face from him, but disguised himself that he might fight with him, and hearkened not unto the words of Necho from the mouth of Yahweh, and came to the fight in the valley of Megiddo. And the archers shot at the king Josiah, and the king said to his servants, "Have me away, for I am sore wounded." His servants therefore took him out of the chariot and put him in the second chariot that he had, and they brought him to Jerusalem, and he died and was buried in one of the sepulchres of his fathers. And all Judah and Jerusalem mourned for Josiah. So he was warned, you being this truth, you're getting elevated, right? Your spirit's getting more stronger. But you know what? Like when there's a prophet that speaks, or a brother that gives you some type of good counsel that you know is in the spirit, you take heed to that, right? Yeah, that's a powerful lesson to be learned on that. So we're going to go to chapter 24. Bear with me. We're almost, well, I will say we're 60%. Just bear with me. Salakia, give me a minute. Lock you. All right, here we go. All right, so I'm going to continue this in 2 Kings chapter 24. I just do want to say, when you come to this truth, more than worrying about the precepts, focus on studying the chapters. Get context first. I learned backwards. I was trying to get precepts for every question that would come to me, right? I didn't want to have to put my hand over my mouth, and refrain to speak and give an answer. But I do know that when you read, it quickens your spirit, right? That the precepts will come to you instead of just picking here and there from chapter and verse, going to another one. You read, you get the context and understanding the chapters first, then you back it up with the precepts. So it's just some of my advice if you're new coming to this truth. Now let's go to chapter 24. We're going to start getting down in this, all right? So bear with me for a second. So here we go. Chapter 24 and verse 1. Babylon controls Jehoiakim, right? So let's get this in here. There we go. In his days, Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, came up, and Jehoiakim became his servant 3 years, and he turned and rebelled against him. And the Lord sent against him bands of the Chaldees, and bands of the Syrians, and bands of the Moabites, and bands of the children of Ammon, and set them against Judah to destroy it, according to the word of the Lord, which he spake by his servants, the prophets, right? So we read that earlier, Jeremiah, Isaiah, right? Just name a couple. Surely the commandment of the Lord came this upon Judah to remove them out of his sight for the sins of Manasseh, according to all that he did, and also for the innocent blood that shed, for he filled Jerusalem with innocent blood, which Lord would not pardon. That Manasseh, the son of a righteous king at that, right? It's a lot here. Yeah, so we just read that, in chapter 21, what Manasseh did. So let's continue on, right? Lock here. So, getting one of my notes very real fast, Salakia. Come on. All these things work sometimes. All right. We're gonna go to 2 Kings verse 8. Here we go. We'll take it to 13. It reads, Jehoiachin was 18 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned Jerusalem 3 months, and his father was Nehushta, the daughter of Elnathan of Jerusalem. And he did which was evil in the sight of the Lord, according to all that his father had done. At that time, the servants of Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon came up against Jerusalem, and the city was besieged. Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came up against the city, and his servants did besiege it. Jehoiachin, the king of Judah, went out against the king of Babylon, he and his mother and his servants and his princes and his officers, and the king of Babylon took him in the 8th year of his reign. He carried out thence all the treasures of the house of the Lord and the treasures of the king's house, and cut in pieces all the vessels of gold which Solomon, king of Israel, had made in the temple of the Lord, as the Lord had said. So all this prophecy, once again, coming to pass, right? So that's the prophecy we read about in Jeremiah chapter 22, when he said, as I live, saith the Lord, though Sanaiah, the son of Jehoiakim, Jessaniah, right? of Judah that were the signet upon my right hand, yet I will pluck thee thence. I will give thee into the land of them that seek thy life. That's Jeremiah chapter 22, verse 24 and 25 that we read about earlier, about that prophecy coming to pass, right? All right, so let's go down a little bit. All right, and we're going to take it at okay. So all these things are going to start making sense, right? So we'll take it from verse 14 to 16. I'm just going to read. And he carried away all Jerusalem and the princes and all the mighty men of valor, even 10,000 captives, and the craftsmen and smiths, none remained, save the poorest sort of the people of the land. He carried away Jehoiachin to Babylon, the king's mother, the king's wives, and his officers, and the mighty of the land. And so those that were useful, right? Those carried he into captivity from Jerusalem to Babylon, and all the men of might, even 7,000, and craftsmen and smiths, 1,000 that were strong and apt for war. Even them, the king of Babylon brought captive to Babylon. So that's the three waves that we read about earlier in Jeremiah chapter 52, verse 28, 29, and 30. The three waves of captivity through the king of Nebuchadnezzar, right? Once again, that would be Jeremiah chapter 52, verse 28, verse 29, and 30. We went through that earlier. I don't want to get that right here because I'm kind of being long-winded already, right? So we continue on, and we see that Zedekiah comes to be king, right? That his name was changed through captivity also. That would have been Mattaniah, right? So let's get this out. Zedekiah was 20 and Salakia, let me do this. Zedekiah was 21 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 11 years in Jerusalem, and his mother's name was Hamatul, the daughter of Jeremiah of Libnah, and he did which was evil in the sight of the Lord, according to all that Jehoiakim had done, Salakia. For through the anger of the Lord it came to pass in Jerusalem and Judah until he had cast them out of his presence. Then Zedekiah rebelled against the king of Babylon, right? So we see we have another rebellion against the Most High's judgment, right? So, another wicked ruler, right? That's like what they do right now, right? They tear up, bomb a country, destroy it, kill their president, put who we want in charge, right? When the wicked rule, the people mourn. Proverbs chapter 29 and verse 2. Right? Let's go to chapter 25, it's the last chapter of Kings. Right? Or Second Kings, I should say. Right. Verse 1 and 2, we'll start off with. Let's get it. And it came to pass in the 9th year of his reign, in the 10th month, in the 10th day of that month, that Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, came he and all his hosts against Jerusalem and pitched against it. And they built forts against it round about, and the city was besieged until the 11th year of Zedekiah. All right. This account was the third. This was the third account of that attack. The other two was 2 Kings chapter 24 and verse 1, and 2 Kings chapter 24 and verse 8, 9, and 10. So if you go back one chapter, here we'll get it. We'll get it. 24 and verse 1. When we read, right? In his days, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came up, and Jehoiakim became his servant 3 years, and he turned and rebelled against him. All right, so that's an attack right there, right? Then you go to verse 8, 9, and 10. Let's get that. Second attack. Jehoiakim was 18 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned in Jerusalem 3 months, and his mother's name was Nehushta, the daughter of Elnathan of Jerusalem, and he did what was evil in the sight of the Lord, according to all that his fathers had done. At that time, the servants of Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, came up against Jerusalem, and the city was besieged, right? Second attack. Third wave, 25 and 1. That was prophesied in that would have been prophesied the 3 waves in attack in Jeremiah chapter 52, verse 28 through 30. We read about the prophecy of the 3 attacks. The third attack would be 2 Kings chapter 25, verse 1. And it reads, and it came to pass in the 9th year of his reign, in the 10th month, and the 10th day of the month, that Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, came, he and all his hosts, against Jerusalem, and pitched against it, and they built forts against it round about. The city was besieged until the 11th year of King Zedekiah. So, right there, that's the third siege. Okay. All right. So let's go to verse 3 and 4, and it reads, we're slow roasting this. Can't rest the Most High's word, right? And on the 9th day of the 4th month, the famine prevailed in the city, and there was no bread for the people of the land. And the city was broken up, and all the men of war fled by night by the way of the gate between the 2 walls, which is by the king's garden. Now the Chaldees were against the city round about, and the king went the way towards the plain. Right. Lamentations chapter 4 and verse 9 says, they that be slain with the sword are better than they that be slain with hunger. For these pine away stricken through for want the fruits of the field. Better to have a fast death than a slow death. Starvation is a very slow death. Okay, verse 5, we continue on. And the army of the Chaldees pursued after the king and overtook him in the plains of Jericho. So they're trying to escape and run away. And all his army was scattered from him. So they took the king and brought him up to the king of Babylon in Riblah. They gave judgment upon him and bound him with fetters and brass, carried him to Babylon. This is a prophecy of Ezekiel. Let me get this out. Let's see, where am I at right now? Okay. Ezekiel chapter 12, verse 13. Reads, KJV. Ezekiel chapter 12 and verse 13. There you go. My net also will I spread upon him, and he shall be taken in my snare, and I will bring him to Babylon, to the land of the Chaldeans. Yet shall he not see it, though he shall die there. That's prophecy coming to pass about Zedekiah. He was trying to run away, got caught. Okay, let's continue. Right, see where we're at. verse 7. And it reads, verse 6, we talk about they took the king and brought him to King Babylon, and really they gave him judgment upon him, right? Verse 7. And it says, and they slew the sons of Zedekiah before his eyes, and put out the eyes of Zedekiah, and bound him with fetters of brass, and carried him to Babylon. You know, in Ezekiel chapter 12, verse 13, it says that he'll return back to his own land and shall not see it. You know, but this man was running away, the king, you know, to avoid famine and destruction, right? His army ran away from him. They caught him, brought him back, gave him judgment, killed his sons in front of him, made him watch it, then took his eyes out. Fucked up. Most I don't play. Most I don't play. All right, so let's go to Slovakia. Let's get to where all right. Let me get a little bit more Slovakia. Give me a second. You know, so we go a little bit more on, we see that, you know, our temple was destroyed, right? That's what these villains do, these heathens, right? They destroy, you know, that's prophecy of Ezekiel chapter 17, right? We get that too in this year. You know, temple being destroyed. Don't do that. All right. There we go. All right. So this eagle, we see that talking about, that's Babylon. Yeah, I would have to read this whole thing. I don't think I want to get into that, but this has to do with what we were reading. We'll go from 11. Moreover, the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, say now to the rebellious house, know ye not what these things mean? Tell them, behold, the king of Babylon is come to Jerusalem. He hath taken the king thereof, the princes thereof, and led them with him to Babylon. He hath taken of the king's seed and made a covenant with him, and hath taken an oath of him, and he has also taken the mighty of the land, right? And we were talking about the strong people that were getting took. They were getting exiled, that the kingdom might be base, that it might not lift itself up, but that by keeping of his covenant it might stand. But he rebelled against him and sending his ambassadors to Egypt, that they might give him horses and much people. Shall he prosper? Shall he escape that doeth such things? Or shall he break the covenant and be delivered? As I liveth, as I live, saith the Lord God, surely in his place where the king dwelleth, that made him king, whose oath he despised and whose covenant he brake, even Salakia. Even with him in the midst of Babylon shall he die. Neither shall Pharaoh with his mighty army and great company make for him in the war by casting up mounts and building forts to cut off many persons. So we saw our people running to Egypt for help, from Hezekiah to others, right? To escape the Assyrian captivity, to escape different types of captivities. They're always trying to form an alliance with other people. But in particular, right here, we see them doing that with Egypt, right? Yeah. So let me get my key point, verse 20, and it reads, and I will spread my net upon him, and he shall be taken in my snare, and I will bring him to Babylon, and I will plead with him there for his trespass that he hath trespassed against me. So we see that, he was brought back to Babylon. But once again, all these things are coming to pass. So let's get back to where we were, 2 Kings chapter 25, right? We're going to take it down. I believe we're where they destroyed the temple, right? And this just goes to describe what type of stuff was in the temple that they took, pots, shuffles, snuffers, spoons, vessels, right? Pillars, Solomon made for the house. That's sad. It was a beautiful temple that they destroyed, stripped it all down bare, right? Verse, let's see here. So, we see that Zedekiah was trying to escape judgment, right? He got killed for it. His sons got killed for it in front of him. His eyes got gouged out, right? Okay, so we go a little bit further down, right? And we see that Gedaliah was governor in Judah after Zedekiah, right? And so, we're trying to get to the end of this thing, right? But once again, these evil rulers appoint the kings that they want back then, just like how the wicked rulers today appoint government officials that they have like-mindedness with, right? That you have something in common with, like whether it be pushing some type of medication, whether it be pushing some type of alphabet agenda, whatever's on the spectrum, whatever they could agree on, right? That's what they do. They feel each other's interest, just like how in verse 22, Gedaliah is made the governor, right? That Babylonian king didn't make him governor for Israel's interest. We see that happen in different parts of the Bible, but in this case, that's not so. So let's go back to where we were. Slakia, press the wrong button. Come on, where you at? Let's go. All right. Start pressing these in. Okay, what's going on here? KJV, man. Wow. Give me some KJV. Yeah. Lock there. There we go. All right, so let's continue down to where we were. We're going to finish this thing off. All right, Gedaliah made governor of Judah, right? All right, so, this gets interesting, right? It's like when you read the book of the Maccabees, you see that Aristobulus is at war with Jonathan Hyrcanus, accusing him of being a Greek sympathizer. So, like the Sicarii, right? Anybody that was against their own people, the laws, or a Roman sympathizer was killed. Gedaliah was pretty much killed for having an alliance with the Babylonians by Ishmael, right? So we're going to read from verse 22 to verse 26 and get some clarification, some edification. Just bear with me for a second. Here we go. And it reads, "And as for the people that remained in the land of Judah, whom Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, had left, even over them, he made Gedaliah, the son of Ahikam, the son of Shaphan, ruler, And when all the captains of the armies, they and their men, heard that the king of Babylon had made Gedaliah governor, they came to Gedaliah of Mizpah, even Ishmael, the son of Nathaniah, and Johanan, the son of Kareah, and Sariah, the son of Tanhamuth, the Netophathite, and Jazaniah, the son of Mashathite. They and their men, and Gedaliah swear to them and their men, and said unto them, Fear not to be the servants of the Chaldees, dwell in the land, and serve the king Babylon, and it shall be well with you. Right? Taking, envy not the oppressor any of his ways, right? Verse 25. But it came to pass in the 7th month that Ishmael, the son of Nethaniah, the son of Elishama of the seed royal, came, and 10 men with him, and smote Gedaliah, that he and the Jews and the Chaldees that were with him in Mizpah. And all the people, both small and greatest, and the captains of the armies arose and came to Egypt, for they were afraid of the Chaldees. Right? So they got on. They smote them. Verse 27. We see that, yeah, he was taken out. He was taken out, right? So we go to Jeremiah chapter 41 and verse 1 through 3 real quick. All right, let's go. Where you at? Come on. Here we go. Give me that book, this. Come on. Jeremiah, where you at? All right, Jeremiah, and we're going to go to verse 41. And we're going to go verse 1 through 3. And it reads, Now it came to pass in the 7th month that Ishmael, the son of Nethaniah, the son of Elishama, of the seed royal, and the princes of the kings, even 10 men with him, came to Gedaliah, the son of Ahikam, to Mizpah, and there they did eat bread together in Mizpah. Then arose Ishmael, the son of Nethaniah, and the 10 men that were with him, and smote Gedaliah, the son of Ahikam, the son of Shaphan, with the sword, and slew him, whom the king of Babylon had made governor over the land. Ishmael also slew all the Jews that were with him, even with Gedaliah and Mizpah, and the Chaldeans that were found there, and the men of war. Right? So Gedaliah was warned and still went to go meet anyways when you start reading heavier into this, but we're not going to get into all that, right? This is just showing that Gedaliah was made governor in Judah in chapter 25, 2 Kings, which is the last chapter, right? Then we see Jehoiachin is released from prison, and it reads, And it came to pass in the 7th and 13th year of the captivity of Jehoiachin of Judah, the 12th month and the 7th and 20th day of the month, that the evil Merodach, king of Babylon, in the year he began to reign, did lift up the head of Jehoiachin of Judah out of prison. And he spake kindly to him, and set his throne above the throne of the kings that were with him in Babylon. And he changed his prison garments, and did eat bread continually. Wait for this thing to go away. Before him all the days of his life. And his allowance was a continual allowance given him of a king, a daily rate of every day, all the days of his life. So he's getting this, payment from a wicked king, right? But you would think that reading this, that it ends there, right? It doesn't. So we're going to get the final part of it, and we're going to go to Jeremiah chapter 51. And we're almost out of here, guys. Just bear with me. We see that Gedaliah was killed for being a sympathizer of the Babylonians. We see that Jehoiachin was released from prison, right? The book of Jeremiah talks about his captivity. So let's go to Jeremiah. Where you at? Here we go. And we're going to go to Jeremiah chapter 51. All right. Here we go. Come on. This thing. All right. So has to do with the judgment against Babylon, right? You see that our forefathers got their judgment, but there's got to be a judgment against Babylon, right? Jehoiachin was released from prison, got an allowance from the king for the rest of his days. But what about Babylon's recompense? 70-year captivity. Remember that, right? Let's get it, verse 1. Thus saith the Lord, behold, I will raise up against Babylon and against them that dwell in the midst of them that rise up against me a destroying wind. And I will send unto Babylon fanners that shall fan her and shall empty her land. And for in the day of trouble that they shall be against her round about. Against him that bendeth let the archer bend his bow, and against him that lifteth himself up in his brigandine, and spare ye not her young men, destroy ye utterly all her host, right? So this is spiritual too. You have Babylon, you have daughter of Babylon, right? You have spiritual Babylon. Verse 4, thus the slain shall fall in the land of the Chaldees, and they that are thrust through in her streets. For Israel had not been forsaken, nor Judah of his God, of the Lord of hosts, though their land was filled with sin against the Holy One of Israel. Let's continue to verse 7. All right. Babylon's destruction. What goes up must come down. What do you have? Assyrian captivity, right? Babylonian captivity, Persian Medes captivity. Verse 7. Here we go. Babylon has been a golden cup in the Lord's hand that made all the earth drunken. The nations have drunken of her wine. Therefore, the nations are mad. Babylon is suddenly fallen and destroyed. How for her? Take balm in her pain. If so be she may be healed. We would have healed Babylon, but she is not healed. Forsake her, and let us go, every one into his own country, for her judgment reacheth unto heaven, and is lifted up even to the skies. The Lord hath brought forth our righteousness. Come and let us declare in Zion the work of the Lord our God. Make bright the arrows, gather the shields, and the Lord hath raised up the spirit of the kings of the Medes, for his device is against Babylon to destroy it, because it is a vengeance of the Lord, the vengeance of his temple. So he's stirring up the Persians and Medes to take out the Babylon captivity. Their 70 years is up. They had their Syrian captivity. Their years up. I mean, their time was up, right? From the angels smoting thousands of warriors to Sennacherib getting killed by his sons, to the Babylonian captivity, right? Where the Nebuchadnezzar's time's up, and who's doing that? The Most High stirring up the Persian Medes to do that. First, here it goes. Where was I at? I think it was like 11 or, okay. Yeah, verse 11. Make bright the arrows, gather the shields. The Lord has raised up the spirit of the kings of the Medes, for his devices against Babylon to destroy it, because it is the vengeance of the Lord, the vengeance of his temple. So they should have saw that, with Gedaliah. That was just a sign of things to come. And set up the standard upon the walls of Babylon. Make the watch strong. Set up the watchmen. Prepare the ambushes. For the Lord hath both devised and done that which he has spoken against the inhabitants of Babylon. O thou that dwellest upon many waters, abundant in treasures, thy end is come, and the measure of thy covetousness. The Lord of hosts has sworn by himself, saying, surely I will fill thee with men as with caterpillars, and they shall lift up a shout against thee. Con, con, point blank, period. Right? So we continue on and see we have a song of praise, right? We see Babylon's punishment, right? All this what the Most High is talking about, right? Verse 15 through 19. Let's get it real quick. Then I got one more precept after this, and we're done. Verse 15. He hath made the earth by his power, and he established the world by his wisdom, and hath stretched out the heaven by his understanding. When he uttereth his voice, there is a multitude of waters in the heaven, and he causeth the vapors to ascend from the ends of the earth. He maketh lightnings with rain, and bringeth forth the wind out of his treasures. Every man is brutish by his own knowledge. Every founder is confounded by the graven image, for his molten image is falsehood, and there is no breath in them. They are vanity, the works of errors. In their time of visitation, they shall perish. The portion of Jacob is not like them, for he is former of all things, and Israel is the rod of his inheritance. The Lord of hosts is his name. Khan. So we see, the song of praise, Babylon's punishment, right? Everything they recompense, right? They're going to get it right here, right? To the exiles. And then we finish, 51, right? We're getting into something else, with Zedekiah, but we finish chapter 25 in 2 Kings. We see what the judgment of the Babylonians is going to be, was the Persian Medes, right? Now we see, let me see here. We read at the top of this. Come on. Damn, Max, I'm telling you, like, I'm used to using my phone. These things don't seem like it's fast as my phone. We see that Gedaliah got taken out, right? We read in Jeremiah chapter 51 the judgment against Babylon, and who was going to do it, right? But we're going to get one more precept, and we're going to end it with that. Let's go to Daniel chapter 5 and verse 21. Okay. All right. This thing loads up. All right, here we go. Daniel chapter 5, and we'll take it from 21, and it reads 22 through 31. All right, come on. All right, here we go. And it reads, and thou, his son, O Belshazzar, hast not humbled in thy heart, though thou knewest all this, but hast lifted up thyself against the Lord of heaven, and they have brought the vessels of his house before thee, and thou and thy lords and thy wives and concubines that have drunk wine in them, and thou hast praised the gods of silver and gold and brass, iron, wood, and stone, which see not nor hear nor know, and the God in whose hands thy breath is, and whose are all thy ways hast thou not glorified. Then was the part of the hand sent from him, and this writing was written. Here we go. And this is a writing that was written. Mene tekel farson. This is the interpretation of the thing. Mene, God hath numbered thy kingdom and finished it. Teke, thou art weighed in the balance and art found wanting. Peers, thy kingdom is divided and given to the Medes and Persians. Verse 29. Then commanded Belshazzar, and they clothed Daniel with scarlet and put a chain of gold about his neck and made a proclamation concerning him that he should be the third ruler in the kingdom. And that night, Belshazzar, the king of the Chaldeans, slain, and Darius the Median took the kingdom. Took the kingdom, being 62 years old. So I think that's 62, if I'm not mistaken. Well, we see right here, Babylon's fall that was prophesied in Jeremiah chapter 51, verse 1 through 5, then 10 through 14, right? We see that the Persian Medes, then it talks about songs of praise and Babylon's destruction. It just describes it, right? Then we see in Daniel chapter 5, verse 22 through 31, that they fell to the Medes. And when Darius the Mede took the kingdom, and how old he was. So Lord willing, this lesson was edifying. This is your brother, Abba Banyan Sakar from the True Nation Congregation in Fresno, California. And, all praise to the Most High, Kala, Yahweh Bashem, Yahweh Shai. With that, family, I'm out. Shalom.